Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the very first edition of the Apron Bumps Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, the Braster himself, Braden Mayhew, along with my wonderful, wonderful co-host, Mr. Gabe Nozid. How you doing tonight, Gabe?
I'm doing good, Braden. Thanks for having me here. I hope to do more of these podcasts with you because this is an uprising. This is a resurgence that I would like to be a part of for the Bracer.
Yeah, it's a resurgence of sorts. A near 6-year YouTube hiatus. Got back into doing Nintendo content about 3 weeks to a month ago. It's been doing real good. Even trying to get a new audience, but even the people who welcomed me back with open arms, such as yourself, Gabe, was really, really heartwarming, and I've enjoyed the run so far and hope for many good things going forward. So tonight we're going to be doing a Takeover Tampa Bay predictions for WrestleMania weekend. So what that means is we're going to go over the card for the show, which has not been fully announced yet. There's been one match announced with one competitor, and the rest of the card we're going to, take a shot at predicting and see if we end up being right. And if we're not, we're not, and then we'll just predict what's actually going to happen for the matches that are announced. But this is a cool little thing we're going to do. So for takeovers for AEW pay-per-view, since they only do them quarterly, so the next one's going to be Double or Nothing in May. And the big four, such as, of course, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, and a couple of the B shows that they care about a little more, like say, Money in the Bank, will be on the predictions to do. So we'll predict the card. Then when the card is announced, and it'll be right before the show, we'll do predictions and, of course, do reviews for everything that we do, the predictions for the card and actual matches for. Sound good, Gabe?
Yes, sir.
All right, so we're going to get right into TakeOver Tampa Bay. So, again, they beat me to this, but the podcast got delayed by a couple weeks. But I said to both Gabe and my friend Brandon, who will be joining us eventually on this show, that they were going to do a multi-woman contenders match since Rhea Ripley and the NXT Women's titles on the WrestleMania card. And before I could be the one to say that that's what they were going to do, Regal announced it like 2 weeks ago. Can you go on record, Mr. Nozid, and say that that was exactly what I predicted before that very faithful show?
I'll even expose myself for doubting you on that prediction because I thought they were just gonna put a good women's feud in the spot for that women's belt since that's gonna be on a WrestleMania show. So yeah, you did call a multi-women number one's contender match that I was doubting on, but here you are, correcting the whole world, telling everyone what's up. So.
Yeah, now it's been announced, so they can be like, oh, it's easy for Braster to say that. It's been announced. Of course he's saying there's a multi-women's match. But anyway, what I didn't know, Chelsea Green is the first and only competitor to have qualified for said match so far, and we don't know if it's going to be 6 or if it's going to be 8, but I did see a diagram on Twitter that seemed to hint at the fact that there are 5 more vacancies for 6 women, but they could always change their mind and do 8. So me and Gabe went over the roster, and we took a look at who would be likely candidates to fill the rest of the ladder match. So we threw in a bunch of heels because that's the only people that seem to get pushed pretty well, or villainous wrestlers, because those the hipster fans love their heels. I guess I'm a hipster fan too. I do cheer for the heels sometime myself. I'm not dogging you for doing that, but anyway, we thought Dakota Kai would be an easy addition to the ladder match, as well as Tegan Nox, because I can't imagine them getting another big blow-off match. They just had a cage match on Wednesday. They had their own takeover street fight back at Portland, but you kind of figure that both of them need to be on the card, and they are premier women on the division. So I say they take up the next 2 spots for 3 of the 6 to 8. What do you think about the potential of Dakota Kai and Tegan Nox being involved in this here ladder match, Gabe?
I think it's likely, but I was gonna ask, what were your thoughts on the takeover match? Because I didn't watch it. I just know that Tegan Nox took a really weird bump that was on the side of a table instead. So to see them in another ladder match, I guess I don't know. How was the match at TakeOver?
It was good. I thought it was very good, but the botch spot at the end and nobody knowing who Raquel was when she came out, and I think the finish really fell flat. and but like the action was good. They even legitimately made you think that they hated each other and wanted to kill each other. The intensity was there. Everything was pretty well, very good, but like the finish did kind of sour the match for me. But it was still very good, all things considered.
So if Tegan and Dakota are in this match, I feel like there would be a good amount of like rivalry stuff going on.
Yeah, well, I think they just cost each other from winning, unless like they go with like Dakota getting a surprise win, because if she's involved, Raquel's basically going to be her bodyguard of sorts. As I said, she's going to be the Tyson Tomko to Dakota Kai's Christian when Tomko was at ringside for the the first ever Money in the Bank ladder match back at WrestleMania 21.
What's Tomko doing now?
I have not heard. I mean, he had a stint in TNA forever ago, and I think
that was like a decade.
Yeah, like 12 years ago now.
Yeah,
I'd say he's retired. I think that's a safe bet. I haven't heard much from him.
Tomko real quick, but yeah, keep going.
So anyway, I think they're going to be in, and we got Bianca Belair, who is not missing this takeover, especially off of just coming off a big women's championship loss at the previous one. They're going to want her on the card. She had a great showing at the Royal Rumble. I think she is for sure. If I'm iffy on Dakota and Tegan, I'm not iffy on Bianca. For sure, she takes up one of these spots in the ladder match. She qualifies sooner rather than later.
I think that if anything, she's going to be in the match for sure, but if anything, I feel like she's going to take the win. Like, I can't think of any other woman, like, in the NXT roster that's going to take the next, like, I guess, spot to challenge whoever.
Yeah, I mean, since Rhea is the champion, and she's going on to defend at WrestleMania, but I still think, and we'll get to that match for other predictions, but I still think she's going to be the champion long term in NXT for the women. So you would assume that a heel is going to win this match. And again, we're not predicting the match. We don't even know who anybody else is going to be in it, but it's a good shot to not only say that you think she's going to be in the match in terms of Bianca, but also the fact that you think, like, as of now, she could very well be even the winner. Is that pretty much what you're pitching here?
Yeah, she just, I mean, like, other than her, I can't really think of anyone unless, I guess another prediction would be Io if she comes back in time for the ladder match.
Yeah, which that's neither confirmed nor denied, and we're only going to know closer to the show. The next gal I have in is Candice LeRae to get another babyface in there and a great worker on the women's side of things to help put together the match and have it carry it along. And then she knows what she's doing. She's a complete pro and definitely somebody you're going to want to have in a big time gimmick match like this to keep things going. You're going to need to have that good hand and somebody at least that the fans can rally against, because, like, unlike her husband, I don't think that the fans have turned on Candice, at least not yet.
No, I mean, I don't know. I know a lot of people that aren't really I guess fond of her as a babyface, even though she is like the babyface. Like,
yeah, it's like, why would you turn her heel? She's got great offense. I mean, she sells great as a babyface. I mean, it's just like that's the role, I wouldn't turn her. So yeah, would you say that she's also a pretty solid pick to have for one of the 6 to 8 then?
I could see her in it. I mean, I've seen her like worse matches. Like, I cannot unsee her getting super kicked by Young Bucks, and then like their feet had like thumbtacks on their feet.
Yeah, something like that.
And she was just bleeding everywhere in that match. So I've seen her in worse like stipulations. So this ladder match, she's probably used to it by now.
Yeah, she's just a good hand that she's been in a lot of match types through her time on the indies and her whole career in general, that she can be somebody to help put it together and kind of be the glue to keep it going. Type deal, just like the solid worker who knows what they're doing and keeps things in check and everything goes along smooth because of their presence. Which leads me into Io Shirai, who would obviously be fantastically showcased in a match like this. And I think if she's in it, she may have a chance to win. But I feel that if she does win going forward, then I feel like you have to have her be the one to beat Rhea. I guess you can have her. I guess you can have her like maybe they could use it as a Money in the Bank type thing where she decides when she's going to want to do it and it doesn't just equal the next takeover or whatever. But like if Io loses again after basically being Shayna's bitch as a babyface last year, it's just gonna crush her momentum big time. Like she
already had a shot, right, against Shayna, right?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's close to being a year ago now, but she did have a shot and she failed a couple times in June last year. There was the Takeover 25 match where she got choked out, and then she lost a cage match to Shayna that led her to turning heel on Candice, which has led us to where we basically are with her character today. But I feel that you got to give her the belt sometime, unless like you just have her to you a takeover and she ends up getting called up, or I shouldn't even be saying called up. NXT's on USA now. It's like it's on the same distributor that Raw's on these days, so it's like I can't even be saying called up anymore. But due to that could also be a reason to keep her down there because she's a star for that NXT audience now, which is on national television, and I think with the USA deal, you're going to see less call-ups happen more infrequently.
Yeah, that's why Charlotte's there now.
Yeah.
To challenge for the women's title.
So that's that. But I think Io, if she's cleared, is definitely going to be in this thing. And again, I don't mean to predict and jump ahead and do this whole thing. We can get into who exactly we think is going to win for sure. But I think Io's name would be definitely a favorite if she does end up qualifying closer to TakeOver.
I mean, if she's still injured by then, I think... I don't know. Another name I can think of is Mia Yim.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to mention. So either for a potential 8 or say Io is not cleared and they need another name to fill in this ladder match, would be Mia Yim. I mean, speaking of which, wasn't it her and Io that had that like really wild ladder match building up to War Games? Hopefully she doesn't break her nose again.
Mia Yim took like 2 nasty bumps.
Yeah, it was
like on the outside ladder bump. That was horrible.
It was nasty. So, you know, but with her experience in that, and I mean, she's also, you know, pretty well looked upon worker. I'm pretty sure she was in the Mae Young Classic when they did it and got a lot of those female talents towards the WWE. I say she's good
in the locker room. I actually have worked with her.
Oh yeah?
Like before like I started practicing or training to be a wrestler, I've been working backstage for some indie shows that she was in, and she's just a great worker overall and a leader, a locker room.
Yes, so she'd be like like the Candice position, the baby face, but also the solid hand who helps keep the moving parts going. Yeah, and then I also have potentially like Xia Li maybe as another name if they do 7-8. I doubt it. I just listed her because she might be.
He's ready, Braden.
No, well, I mean Chelsea Green's in there, you know. So
I mean, Chelsea Green has had, you know, already a couple of angles in TNA, and a couple matches under her belt. Xia Li is like fresh from the Performance Center. Like, did you see her match with Aaliyah and I forgot who the other girl was, Vanessa Borden and all that.
Yeah, but I'm not telling her to put on a half-hour singles classic. I mean, just to kind of throw kicks and get hit with a ladder. You know, I mean, it's a multi-person match. You can. Believe it or not, Gabe, it's very easy to hide some flaws in multi-people affairs.
Oh, I know it is. Like, the shows I've been working with, they've always told me, yeah, you can be in this tag match or these multi-man matches. Like, oh, okay, yeah. You don't have to do much. Like, oh, okay, got you. So, yeah, I could see that. But it's a ladder match. I've seen her, like, mess up a rope, like a top rope move. So, I don't know. These ladders, I don't know if she's prepared for it. So
I had to look through the whole roster just to fit her name in there. And again, folks, I think it's going to be 6 women as opposed to 8 anyway. Like, if I gave my final prediction, I think it's going to be 6 women, just like they did with the North American title a few years ago. That was a 6-man ladder match to inaugurate that belt. I think there's going to be 6 ladies in this one. And as I said, if Io's not in, because she is my pick for now, but since she is injured and might not come back in time, just swap her with Mia Yim, and I think that's a safe prediction for this first tier match for TakeOver. Gabe, any final thoughts before we move on?
Who I want to see, I don't know if it's likely because she's kind of not like signed. I think from what I last heard, KC Canzaro. I want to see what she can do like off of ladders because she can like basically like run over the ropes, climb every single turnbuckle, like. She is the Ninja Warrior, so...
Well, that's where she's from, right? So
yeah, so I just hope... I mean, it's most likely not going to happen, but if she's in this match, that'd be great to see.
Well, moving on, we're going to go to the next match that we predict for this show. The next match that we're going to predict involves the NXT Tag Team Championships, which are currently held by none other than the world's best odd couple, the Broserweights, Mr. Matt Riddle and Mr. Pete Dunne.
I love them so much.
Yes. I think that they are being positioned to face the Grizzled Young Veterans, the team of Zack Gibson and James Drake, the former NXT UK Tag Team Champions that have just basically come over to American NXT full-time now in the last few weeks. And they have a history. The Broserweights beat them to win the Dusty Classic to get a shot against Undisputed Era in Portland, so there is a bit of history there. And with Undisputed Era getting a tag title shot this week on NXT, that makes me think that they're going to get their rematch and lose, and then they can build the angle with Grizzled Young Vets going forward. In fact, this past week on NXT, Gibson and Drake attacked the Broserweights from behind when they came out to, I guess, confront the Undisputed Era on NXT this week. Do you agree with maybe where I think the tag title situation is going, or do you have any different thoughts of your own, Mr. Gabe?
I just can't think of any other team, Braden, because the past couple of weeks, yeah, you're right, they've been pushing them, they've had promos, they even had a little scuffle with them, with Broserweights over the mic. I think it was, they fought for the Dusty Cup, right?
Yeah, they did. That's who the Broserweights beat to get the shot in Portland in the first place.
Yeah, so I think, it has to be them. Undisputed, I think they could put a pause button right now and focus on, I guess, Adam Cole's defense, whoever that may be.
Well, I think that's very much what's going to happen. Because last year, Fish, O'Reilly, and Strong were not on an official match on the last TakeOver card, and they just did a big run-in during the 2 out of 3 falls match that Cole had with Gargano. So I think very much you're going to see them play the same thing. With Cole being on the card, Undisputed Era is going to be featured. As long as he's the champion going in, they're going to be involved in his actual match. So I think that's what's going to happen again 2 years in a row. I mean, I would think if the Undisputed Era was going to get a TakeOver shot, why are they doing it on Wednesday, right?
Yeah, that's when they're going to do a rematch, but they're most likely not going to win.
No, they've had their run. They fulfilled the prophecy. They've lost the belts, and now they're very much in the claim of Riddle and Dunne. I would say I might consider this for a triple threat, but there is another match that we are just about to talk about that I think is more likely to be multi-person than the tag title picture. And we'll get to that right now. So that leads us to our prediction to what they're going to do with the NXT North American Championship, currently held by the limitless Keith Lee. Keith Lee just came off his first successful TakeOver title defense against Dominik Dijakovic back at TakeOver Portland. And it seems that the challengers for the North American title picture seem to be commingling with each other. So Dijakovic had a match recently with Cameron Grimes that Cameron Grimes won because Damian Priest cost Dijakovic the match so that it would send a message to Keith Lee that he's also coming for his belt. And now, on NXT next week, Cameron Grimes has a shot against Keith Lee for the North American title, which I think is going to end in a big 4-person schmoz between Dijakovic, Lee, Grimes, and Priest. And Regal's basically just going to say, oh, you guys are going to be in a 4-way match, and we have a fatal 4-way bout for the North American Championship. 3 big dudes and the little guy with the hat. So that's what it seems to be building to me. I think this is way more likely to be a multi-challenger match than, say, the tag titles.
I'm just scared that they're going to throw in Killian Dane again. I hope they don't do that because I feel like he doesn't have enough momentum to go for the North American title again. On
top of that, has he been involved with any of these 4 men in the last few weeks?
Not at all, but I mean, you don't know anything can happen, Brayden.
I do, but he hasn't been figured into the storyline at all. Really,
I mean, they could do what they did with Cameron Grimes, or with Priest, last week. They just shoehorned, I guess,
They could do that, but I think that this fatal 4-way is much more likely. I'd be shocked if Killian Dane got added to this thing because he hasn't been That's as silly as it is. Let's be like adding Roderick Strong to it. He's had nothing to do with it, but at least then you could still say, well, I mean, he never got his rematch. and he shoehorned Roddy in there, and at least he could say, I'm a former champ and didn't get my rematch. Well, I guess what stake does Killian Dane really have? Like, who's he beaten recently, at least out of these 4 guys, or anything to even get himself in that title picture anyway? You just have a sneaking premonition that they're just going to shoehorn him in there for a 5-way?
5-way, or maybe, I don't know, I just don't want him in.
Yeah, he doesn't fit in this particular match as is. I think Lee, Dijak, Priest, and Grimes are all 4 are great, and working together could be something really special, especially since it's like the second biggest belt. It's the secondary title of NXT, and we all know what Dijak and Lee can do, and then you add the strikes and the crazy agility for somebody as tall as Damian Priest. Plus, I love Cameron Grimes. I think that guy is just a phenomenal worker. Every time I watch him wrestle, he blows me away.
Like, I feel like if he is in this match, this will really elevate like his status for the mid card. Like,
oh, for sure. I think he's even getting elevated, getting a shot next week.
Yeah, I just hope he's in it now, because like, you're just making me salivate for some Trevor Lee spots.
Yeah.
Crash courses.
His finish is awesome. That big like sudden stomp that he pulls right to the chest. It's so cool. I'm hoping so. I've become the biggest fan of him in the last like 4 or 5 months. He's really impressed me. So I'm hoping that they factored him in, gave him a win over Dijak. They kind of give him a shot against Lee, but like it gets thrown out due to interference, and then he ends up joining these other 3 big men for the big clash for the North American title at TakeOver. I believe in Cameron Grimes. So with the absence of the NXT women's title, sure, yes, there is a women's contenders #1 contenders match to get the women in general on the card, but that still leaves a one less championship affair on the main TakeOver card. Now, last year, Walter made his big TakeOver in-ring debut for TakeOver New York when he beat Pete Dunne to win the NXT United Kingdom title. And now it seems they're going to use him for the same show again, the WrestleMania weekend TakeOver, except they seem to be positioning him to challenge or to get challenged by Finn Balor, who's been on a bit of a roll lately in NXT. 2 big TakeOver wins back-to-back, one against Matt Riddle at War Games, and then most recently against Johnny Gargano at TakeOver Portland. Balor was attacked by Imperium in the last few weeks, and recently, this past Wednesday, on NXT, he issued a warning to Walter that in this game of chess, he is not going to like Finn's next move. So if they were building this for TakeOver Dublin, I don't think they'd be starting it this early. I think they are starting this program to do it at TakeOver Tampa, and then it continues into TakeOver Dublin as a long-term 2-show deal at least.
And then it's going to be like a big homecoming for Balor. That's where he's from and everything. So
yes, it's going to be a big deal for him to compete in Dublin, Ireland, for sure. So
I think if this match happens, it's going to be I guess a dirty finish, because like it has to continue. Like Imperium has to be involved.
Yeah, unless I mean, it's either got to be a dirty finish, but then that means Finn takes a loss, and he's just coming off 2 huge TakeOver wins, so this would be a loss. But I mean, you do protect him to.
Balor.
Yeah, I know, and them interfering is it does protect him to a degree, but it's still a loss. But then again, Walter would be reigning for a year at that point, and he'd be retaining pretty much like a year after winning it. But if you have
he's been unstoppable.
He's been dominant. He's been just. It's crazy that he's almost held that belt for a year now. He's like 1 month away from being champion for a full year already. It's crazy how just time flies by. And still just as over. Those chops, baby. So, Gabe, this is where I'm going to position this question to you. Do you think there is more value in Finn Balor as a challenger who got fucked at the last TakeOver? Or do you think there's more value in him walking in as champion and Walter getting his rematch in Dublin?
I feel like, I don't know, because I mean, I personally see it as, okay, Finn Balor, he's fucked, and then he could possibly win it from, in Dublin. So that's just how I see it. I think it makes more sense because Walter has been unstoppable. I don't see why he should lose the belt now if anything. And it's weird that Balor just turns. I think he's face now, right? After those like.
Well, we just came off an Imperium Undisputed Era program, and the Undisputed Era are still very much heels. So I think it's just a heel versus heel thing, but since Balor is the long-term NXT star who was on the main roster, he's going to get the babyface reaction no matter what.
I just see it as, okay, he's gonna get the loss. Balor's gonna get the loss by Imperium shenanigans, and then if they want to, they could drop the belt to Finn at Dublin. So,
because obviously, like, they're starting this thing to at least finish there or continue there, because Balor's definitely going to be on that show.
Yeah, it's going to keep going.
It's going to keep going, and
Balor thing is gonna.
Oh, for sure.
Takeover Tampa.
For sure, but I think they're starting it here because it's another match to get on the card. It gives Finn something kind of big to do, and on top of that, it plays into, because before Imperium attacked him, Finn was basically saying he had done everything, and they came out to tell him that there was one thing he hadn't done, which they were implying was winning the NXT UK title, which he has not won in his career yet. So there's a storyline reason there that is something in the NXT universe that Finn Balor has not accomplished yet, and it gets Walter on the WrestleMania TakeOver card, and that, just as a program, gets 2 thumbs up from me.
Can't say anything else right there. That's perfectly put.
And so that leads us into this next match, interestingly enough, and to assume what I think will be in the co-main event spot, the penultimate match, whatever you want to consider second to last, I believe that is going to go to the definitive stipulation match between Johnny Gargano against Tommaso Ciampa. And then the only question is, what does that big stipulation end up being? Because they've done an unsanctioned match. They've done a street fight. They've done last man standing. There are 2 stipulations that I think are good for this type of definitive feud-ending situation, which is funny that they're doing this, because originally they were going to do it last year for the title, but then Ciampa got his neck surgery. He was out for a long time, and it never ended up happening. So now they're going back to this feud to give them that big takeover blow-off. So they have never competed in an I Quit match, which is, that's a pretty definitive thing. You beat your opponent around the ring. You do it so decisively that they have to say, I quit. Or I was thinking even more crazy and less likely, but what would be so cool is the first ever NXT sanctioned Hell in a Cell match on WrestleMania Weekend TakeOver. The first time that the cell has ever been used in NXT for an NXT show. And it's between 2 guys who have nearly been feuding for 3 years and is quite arguably the biggest blood feud in NXT history. Where do you think they're going with this Gargano-Ciampa stuff, Gabe?
Okay, so this heel turn with Gargano, I think it's still kind of new. I think they want to make it longer, so I don't think Hell in a Cell would happen just yet. I feel like that would be the ultimate match for them.
Right.
And we're also having a ladder match. That's confirmed no matter what. So I think I'm leaning towards an I Quit, because if we're having a Hell in a Cell, they're gonna have the roof over the ring.
That is true. I did not think about that. I feel so silly for not putting those together. It's like, how are they gonna hang the contract underneath the cell cage there? Yeah, you put up a good point there.
So I think I'll lean towards your I Quit match. And they'll just draw it out. I don't know how, though, because it can't end there, in my opinion. If this is on the Mania card or the Tampa TakeOver card, they can't just end it here.
Well, I mean, they definitely could if somebody just decides to go to Raw or SmackDown right afterward. But I don't think either man will. At least I don't think so.
Both of them.
Ciampa for sure not. He said he's apparently never going to Raw or SmackDown. He's using his neck to pretty much stay in NXT. He's using medical reasons to. He said because of the less travel, right? All he's got to do is go to Full Sail. So he says that schedule works for him and will extend his career. And if he goes to Raw or SmackDown, his career will be significantly shortened, if it isn't already super shortened after the fusion surgery already. But even though I did say that Hell in a Cell was a long shot, I did say it was less likely of the 2. So if it's any consolation, I did say it was a bit of a pipe dream. But the I Quit match could work in the way you're proposing it, because, I mean, there could be some shenanigans. Like, I mean, I don't know how you do it again, but like The Rock recorded Mankind saying he'd never say I quit, and then played it over the loudspeaker, and that's how he ended up winning an I Quit match once. And I'm sure like you could even do something where I don't know, because if the guy passes out, could the ref just stop it despite the fact that they say I quit? I'm sure there are ways that
it's a stipulations I quit.
They got to say it. So I don't know how it would be. There would be a way to make it schmozzy and not definitive without just Ciampa killing the guy and getting him to say I quit. Because you know what, I would say that's kind of likely, because Johnny doesn't seem to win his big matches very much. He has great performances. His matches usually steal the show, but he normally comes out on the losing end of all of them.
I mean, the last big win I can remember was his title defense against Ricochet for the North American belt.
No, he beat Cole WrestleMania weekend for the NXT title.
I like the North American one better, I guess.
Yeah.
That's just me.
Yeah, I get it. I was going to say, because the Cole win did come after that. But the Cole win was the last time he won.
The last time he won.
He was the last time he wanted a takeover, because he dropped it to Cole at 25 right after that. Then he lost to Cole in their 3 stages of hell style match in Toronto. Then he was bumped from the War Games card, where he would have lost to Balor anyway. And then it ended up happening at Portland, and he lost to Balor. So it makes me think that he's probably going to lose here. But if you keep it going, the heel kind of has to schmooze a win. But schmoozing a win's hard in an I Quit match creatively. You know what I mean? Like, have any other heels won kind of cheesy in I Quit matches before? I'm really drawing a blank on this stipulation.
I don't have a lot of recollection for matches, because like it's kind of hard. I can't. When was the last one, Rain?
The last one would have been. Oh my God, who?
One I remember the most when I was a kid was Chavo and Rey Mysterio, because like I think, they had a feud going on. Chavo kept using a chair.
Yeah, and he kept smashing the knee, and then Ray screamed, "I quit!" And well, you know what? I'm thinking of something here. If they have like Ciampa's like it's kind of bad, but like if they have his child in the crowd or something like that, and he doesn't want his daughter to see any more bad or anything like that, or like if he's scared for his daughter's well-being, he could just say I quit to spare his family. But that's going super dark, you know, because there was one time, and this is a really long time ago, but if Mick Foley and Flair had an I Quit match, and Foley was kind of like aligned with Melina and Eminem at the time. And I guess Flair was like threatening to hit her with the chair, as the Nature Boy would, I suppose. And Foley said, I quit, to spare Melina a Nature Boy beatdown of sorts. So, I mean, that stuff can happen. But then again, are you going to put a kid in the crowd after, like, the Mankind thing? And,
they're
seeing
not
the,
gonna do that.
So I'm just trying to think of
Especially
a creative.
in today's age, they're not going to bring, like, real life, blood into.
No, they're not going to bring any real life blood. I'm just thinking of like, could there be something where Ciampa just has remorse and doesn't want to do anything super bad in front of his daughter? So he after a while he just quits.
I guess his daughter. I can think of what's it called. AJ and Joe had a feud, and then I guess his family were.
Yeah, that was that was like almost 2 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. So if they kind of play off of that, I guess more emotional. I guess.
I am so interested in when the last I Quit match was. I can't even recall the last time that stipulation was used.
I said this earlier about Tomko. I can't find anything of him right now. Last thing I see was he was in the Independence 2016.
2016?
Yeah, Independence scene.
Alright. I Quit match. Let's see. I'm very interested here because I can't remember. Like, I remember Orton and Cena having one where Orton kind of handcuffed him and hung him from like the post and kept hitting him with a kendo stick. But that's like from like almost 11 years ago. It's not that recent. When was the last time I Quit was used? I can't remember. I got to look this up. Oh wow. Kaylee Ray had one with Tony Storm.
Was this in NXT UK?
Yeah, it was taped January 18th, and it aired at the end of February. Well, that's pretty recent. That just happened.
Okay, well,
How about that? Okay, so the last one that you might recall was, Cena had one against Rusev for the U.S. title at Payback.
okay, alright.
Yeah, that was probably the most recent one that you could probably remember, and that was for an actual championship, and that had like a big story. Well, Kaylee Ray and Tony Storm have been feuding for a long time too, but like one that we probably both seen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I mean, I bet, UK has some good matches and all. It's just that I don't have a real connection with NXT UK. I'm happy for it.
Yeah, well, it's very
in that region.
Yeah, it's for the European fans more so than us, and I'm glad it exists for Walter to be able to work there, because he said he doesn't want to like leave his family and stuff like that, so he's got to do NXT UK stuff. That's the only way he's gonna stay with WWE. So for people thinking about Walter touring the main roster on Raw and SmackDown and going around the globe, he's pretty well said he's never gonna do that. So that's one thing. But yeah. So it's just hard that if I Quit is the stipulation, but I'm having a hard time thinking about like what other big brawling thing that they could do that they haven't done yet, because they did every gimmick under the sun when they were having their big matches 2 years ago. So I'm having a hard time.
Brain, an Inferno match.
Oh yes, yeah, Ring of Fire match. It's not an Inferno match. It's for the kids. It's Ring of Fire now. So I guess we could just agree on the I Quit stipulation, and if they keep it going, they'll find, I guess, some creative way for Johnny to pull it off.
What's his name? Does Ciampa use a submission?
Yeah, he's got. Well, I don't know if it's ever. I remember it winning. He's got that armbar thing that he'll jump over. Yeah.
When they were still in DIY.
Yeah, he's got that submission, but like I can't remember the last time it winning, other than them winning the tag titles with it, where Gargano had the Gargano escape and he had the armbar, and they both had the revival locked to the submission to win. I can't remember the last time he actually got a tap out win. And even then, Project Ciampa is like a transitional move now. It's double.
A signature move.
Yeah, it's a double knee backbreaker. That looks way more finisher like than his fairy tale ending.
It's.
I prefer the Project Ciampa, but he never uses it as a finish anymore, ever. It's always the fairy tale ending.
The first match they ever had was in Cruiserweight Classic when that was his first time using Project Ciampa, I think. And I'm gonna say, like, I marked out like really hard.
It's a cool move. It's a real cool move.
It's hard to. I think it's really hard to do, because you gotta get him in a powerbomb position. That's already like hard enough in my opinion.
Yeah, and then you got to drop him on your knees and do perfect placement so you don't like break the guy's back.
It's like you gotta lay on your back, and you can't put them on your knees because I'll seriously injure your opponent. So you gotta put like your shins on them, and it's
right.
It's really hard to like do. So I don't know why he just does it as a signature.
Yeah, it's and this leads us perfectly in the next match, because it's like Adam Cole's knee to the back of the head, his last shot, is apparently more devastating than his flip pile driver.
Than his Panama Sunrise.
Yeah, which Panama Sunrise is a much more devastating looking move, but it's the knee to the back of the head that gets the finishes, which leads us to our next match, and most likely the main event of NXT TakeOver Tampa Bay. And of course, none other than that main event being Adam Cole defending the NXT Championship against the Velveteen Dream. Dream came back right before Portland, before Cole successfully defended against Ciampa. And he had his little thing with Roddy, because Roddy was the ringleader in him in the Undisputed Era, taking him out last fall to write Dream out of TV, because he had, a back issue that he was healing from. But he is now back. He's been attacking all the Undisputed Era. He's done his... He's finished his little thing with Roddy, and now at the end of last Wednesday's episode, he purposely cost himself a cage match. He threw Roddy out of the cage so he could lock it, beat down Adam Cole, and celebrate with the belt to show that he is indeed coming for Cole and the NXT Championship. I figured this much going in. I knew that with the ending of TakeOver Portland, if Cole retained, he'd be paired against Velveteen Dream. But on the chance that Ciampa won, I thought they might have paired him with Finn Balor going forward. So with Cole retaining at Portland, I figured Velveteen Dream would be the challenger come WrestleMania weekend TakeOver. What do you think of this match, Gabe? And how do you think the feud's going to go going forward?
Shoot, Velveteen fresh back from his injury, right? What was he
Yep.
injured with?
He was suffering some back issues that he had to go and rest up.
Some back issues. All right, so yeah, fresh from his injury, I think it's the perfect time to put the strap on him. In my opinion,
It is.
I can't think of any other opponent because Ciampa has his thing with Gargano. Who's another top contender?
Well, the only two top contenders going into 2020, because Dream wasn't back yet, was Ciampa, who got his shot and lost and is tied up with Johnny. And then I thought they might fast-track Keith Lee to that picture, but they kept him in the North American Championship scene, so they want him...
Going for,
yeah, Balor's going to be involved with Walter, and is a heel anyway, so I think this is perfect.
Yeah, put the strap on him. I don't see anything wrong because I think, in my opinion, he's the best North American champion.
No, he held the belt the longest. He had the longest reign with it so far in its small history.
And yeah, it's just his time because he's been flourishing for how long has it been since his first takeover?
His first takeover will be 3 years in November.
Yeah,
when he had the match against Aleister Black. Yeah.
Yeah, like oh my god, I remember nobody was in favor of Velveteen Dream. Like no one liked him. Even no one liked his character at all. It was like when Matt Hardy was broken for the first time.
Yeah, and it was like the Fiend as like Mr. Rogers type, right? Like people thought, oh, how could they be doing this to Bray? And then the character evolved and won them over in time, right? All the best gimmicks do. I'm sure people thought the same thing about The Undertaker in 1990. So,
and Velveteen's just been hot.
He has been
nonstop, like heel or face. Everyone's saying his name ever since his debut. So.
Yes, and it's a championship he hasn't won yet. He's very young, and if you were gonna have Adam Cole reign for this long, you got to put somebody over pretty strong. And Ciampa's been champion before; he's been established in NXT. This is the type of win that would give Dream not only the first run with the belt, but will really solidify him as a perennial main eventer of the NXT brand.
And plus, like, I already know a lot of stars who want to have matches with Dream himself. I remember a tweet by John Cena that I think he called out Dream for like being a worker he's intrigued with the most at the moment in NXT. So it's his time, and it's WrestleMania. It's definitely his spotlight to take.
Yeah, Adam Cole has had the belt for a long time. In fact, by the time that TakeOver Tampa Bay rolls around, he will be over 300 days as champion, which is the first time anybody's held that belt long. So eventually, when it comes to this show, he will surpass Finn Balor's reign as NXT champion to become the new longest reigning champion in NXT history for the men's NXT title. And he's had his run. He'll have it for a good 10 months by the time this rolls around, and
a great run.
It's
against Daniel Bryan, like on SmackDown,
and beat him clean, by the way.
Yep, clean, no undisputed shenanigans. What a great! That was also a good TV match.
Yes, it was one of the better ones of last year for sure. But also we're gonna also look into the history of TakeOver NXT title matches during WrestleMania weekend. Most of the time, it has favored the babyface to win. If we look back at 2016, Finn Balor successfully defended the NXT Championship against heel challenger Samoa Joe in the main event. In 2017, it's the only time where it was opposite. The heel champion Bobby Roode successfully defended against babyface challenger Shinsuke Nakamura. I know, babyface Nakamura. It was a thing once, people. It was much better, too, by the way, but we can get into that at another time. But the only reason that happened was because Roode was staying with NXT, and they were immediately sending Nakamura to SmackDown.
Yep.
So that's the reason the heel won there. But then you go to 2018, babyface Aleister Black defeated heel champion Andrade to win the NXT title at TakeOver New Orleans WrestleMania weekend. And then last year, babyface Johnny Gargano defeated surrogate heel Adam Cole, because, Ciampa couldn't wrestle. Surrogate heel Adam Cole to 2 falls to 1, a 2 out of 3 falls bout to win the vacant NXT title, and he was the babyface. So this match is definitely happening. I think it's just all but confirmed. And as I said, WrestleMania weekend, usually the babyface wins that big NXT Championship match, and I see very much the same thing for Velveteen Dream.
Perfectly put, Braden. That's it.
And that is all, ladies and gentlemen, for the NXT Takeover Tampa Bay predictions. Stay tuned, because coming up, you will, in just a matter of time, not too long from now, you will also see our WrestleMania 36 predictions. The predictions for the biggest and most bloated wrestling show of the year. So do stay tuned for that. Gabe, before we go, any cheap plugs that you would like to let the audience know?
Just look out for my YouTube. It's just Nozid, Nozid. I make whatever I feel like that I want to entertain myself with, to be honest. But I hope you all enjoy that stuff. I make cooking videos. I make some wrestling matches, comedic wrestling matches, TWW. I make everything. So just look out for whatever on Nozid. And I have another wrestling. I have another channel, Nozid Wrestling. I haven't uploaded on that for a while, but once I start wrestling in the independents, that's where I'll consistently put my matches up there whenever I can. So that's all I can say.
Wonderful, wonderful. Do follow all of that, and we will see you all on, I guess, the dark side of the ring, light side of the ring, whatever you want to consider it. We'll see you all next time.